With Halloween closing in, today on Revisiting 2000 Cinema, we review a B-movie horror experience inspired by Steven Spielberg's feature-length directorial debut. Joyride, the 2001 movie, stars the likes of Paul Walker, Steve Zahn, and Leelee Sobieski, and follows two brothers on a road trip who pull a prank through their CB radio, leading to a truck driver's murderous rampage, stopping at no end for revenge. So the theme again for a third straight week is another 2000's first-time movie watch. I had never seen Joyride before and barely heard anything about it, but when reading the concept and noticing Paul Walker and Steve Zahn on the poster, there was no way I could pass up this film to get into the Halloween spirit. What initially came to mind when reading about Joyride was the obvious, Steven Spielberg's 1971 film Duel. I had seen and reviewed the movie a few years ago, so it was fresh in my mind, and I was excited to see a modern take on the premise with Joyride. 9 out of 10 times, newer versions of older movies just aren't as good as the originals. The reason here is simply because of the director behind the camera. Steven Spielberg is without a question a top 5 cinema icon from the director's chair, and Duel launched him onto the map, setting up his successful career. Joyride, meanwhile, was directed by John Dahl, who still has had a good career in Hollywood, but a majority of his great work in the industry came from directing TV episodes for several hit shows including Breaking Bad, Dexter, The Walking Dead, Yellowstone, and Billions, just to name a few. That's an incredible resume for a director, but let's be real, how many people know John Dahl versus Steven Spielberg? Spoiler alert, 99% of people would say they know Spielberg over Dahl, but Joyride is still a good movie alongside his other noteworthy film, Rounders. So I'm a little surprised Dahl hasn't received more work in film as a director because these films are pretty good. Regardless, Joyride succeeds in what it sets out to accomplish, acting as a B-movie thriller with a few scares. It's reminiscent of several other horror movies from the 2000s and easily could have been awful, but the acting is good, the movie keeps you on edge for most of its runtime, and unlike a lot of those 2000s horrors, your eyes don't roll over horrendous dialogue, poor execution, and predictability. Despite an intriguing concept though, I mainly wanted to watch Joyride to see both Paul Walker and Steve Zahn. Walker, known for his role in the Fast and Furious franchise, was always one of my favorite parts of those films before his tragic death in 2014. Zahn, on the other hand, is effective in playing a kooky character. All in all, I like these two in the movie, as they play believable brothers and characters that fit both actors' styles. Walker in the pretty boy level-headed role, and Zahn as the goofball, who foolishly puts the brothers on their treacherous path against the trucker. In terms of editing, directing, and execution, the movie is well made. Joyride has no cheap jump scares, and when the tension is high, it's there to stay. I'm someone who hates an overuse of jump scares. Thankfully for us here, Joyride only uses them when necessary. For example, one of the best scenes in the movie takes place in this cornfield, a perfect setting for horror, and instead of cutting the tension with several lame jump scares, Dahl keeps the suspense rolling for as long as he can without overstaying its welcome. Surprisingly, Joyride has some impressive cinematography as well, notably in this bedroom scene in which Walker and Zahn's characters listen in next door to the trucker's first kill. It's discreet cinematography like this that places Joyride head and shoulders above most other horror movies from the 2000s. But Joyride isn't a horror movie that's tough to pick apart either. You can watch the film in full and will notice how ungrounded the movie is. Your suspension of disbelief has to be high, no doubt, but at the same time, I think that was kind of the point. It's highly unlikely this trucker would be able to find these brothers as easily and as often as he does in the film, despite constantly losing them. Nevertheless, it's all part of the movie's fun. I'd say my personal biggest gripe with the movie is its tonal shifts. It takes nearly 30 minutes for the suspense to start, and even after that, there's roughly 15 minutes that follow where Joyride reverts back to feeling like a completely different movie. If you watch this film outside of its suspenseful moments, you'd mistake it for a romantic comedy road trip movie, partly due to its lack of early thrills and partly because of its unnecessary subplot involving Sobieski and Zahn's characters that quickly gets dropped right after it begins. Something else I didn't like is how the movie deals with our trucker during the finale. No spoilers, however, I found it weird how the movie didn't fully commit to hiding the trucker's face, but also never blatantly show show it. You see glimpses here and there, but I prefer how Dahl handled that tricky decision more, by not showing the trucker's face at all. Joyride is an effective horror movie whose positives outweigh its negatives in my opinion. I love seeing Steve Zahn and Paul Walker share the screen together as brothers. There's plenty of suspense, impressive cinematography, and loads of scares bound to cause paranoia next time you're on the road at night. So I'm giving Joyride from 2001 a 7 out of 10. Alright, so for those of you who have also seen Joyride, let me know your thoughts down below. Plus, out of the serial killer highway movies, what would you say is your favorite? I hope you all continue having a great spooky season, and I'll see you in the next video.